They told me it was impossible. They laughed when I told them I would turn $6 into a fortune. But I understood something they did not. Money was never the true resource. $6 was merely a symbol. The real wealth sat quietly inside my mind. When I held those $6 in my hand, I did not see limitation. I closed my eyes and saw $900 million, 0 cents, already mine. I dared to claim it, in secret, when no one else believed. I moved in imagination, not in fear. I walked, spoke, and breathed as though I were already wealthy. Even when the world showed me lack, I showed the world my inner abundance. Each day I rose and declared to myself, "It is already done. It is already mine." I felt it. I touched it. I spent hours in that unseen world where $900 million, 0 cents, was as common to me as air. Circumstances tried to mock me. The numbers, the bills, the opinions of others. All of them cried out, "Give up." But I understood they were merely shadows of old beliefs trying to hold on. I persisted beyond appearances. When doubts arose, I silenced them not with force, but with assurance. "You are lying illusions. My reality is fixed in the unseen." And so it began. Tiny doors opened. Small opportunities blossomed. One by one, unseen hands arranged the visible world to match my inner certainty. Not by chance, not by hard labor, but by divine law. $6 had no power to create $900 million, 0 cents. But the assumption of being a multimillionaire, unwavering, alive, real, that was the cause. I never worked for $900 million, 0 cents. I simply received what I had already accepted. I made $900 million, 0 cents from $6 because I refused to let $6 define me. They will tell you that money is everything. They will point to their bank accounts, their assets, their ledgers, and they will convince you that wealth begins with possession. But I am here to tell you, with a certainty deeper than the oceans, that true wealth does not begin with what the eyes can see. It begins with the unseen riches of the mind. When I held $6 in my hand, I understood a secret that the world often overlooks. Those $6 were not my true capital. They were not my supply, nor were they my foundation. They were merely a symbol, a fleeting, temporary picture of what once occupied my mind. My true resource, my true fortune, was invisible. It lived and breathed within the garden of my imagination. For the man who believes only in what he sees is a prisoner of the visible. He is shackled to facts, to numbers, to statistics, and cannot move beyond them. But the man who dares to imagine, the one who claims unseen wealth as his own, becomes master over all facts, all appearances, all conditions. He creates out of thin air. He calls forth gold from places others see only dust. Imagination is more valuable than money because money follows imagination, not the other way around. Money is a shadow, a reflection, a consequence. Imagination is the cause, the root, the fountain from which every visible thing flows. It was never the $6 that mattered. It was the picture I painted inside myself. The picture of vast wealth, of overflowing abundance, of effortless possession. That picture, held faithfully, became the blueprint from which reality was compelled to build. When I looked at my $6, I did not see limitation. I did not bow before it. I did not whisper words of lack or fear. I blessed it as a symbol of the greater riches already mine. I treated it not as a prison, but as a seed. And I knew that if I watered that seed with faith, with vision, and with unwavering imagination, it would grow into a mighty tree whose branches would stretch beyond anything the senses could now grasp. You must understand this. The outer world rearranges itself to match the inner vision. This is not wishful thinking, it is law. The man who sees himself as poor, even if he holds $6 million, will find a way to lose it. The man who sees himself as wealthy, even with $6, will call into his world fortune upon fortune, until the visible world can no longer deny the unseen decree he has made. This is why the wise among us have always valued imagination above possessions. Possessions can be stolen, lost, or destroyed. But imagination, once disciplined and trusted, becomes an eternal wellspring. It needs no permission. It seeks no validation. It creates simply because it must, according to the pattern we impress upon it. When I chose to imagine myself wealthy, I was not pretending. I was creating. I was setting into motion a series of unseen forces that would move mountains, open doors, and command circumstances to align. My $6 were not a limitation, but a testimony to the power of beginning with the little you have, trusting that the unseen supply is infinite and already prepared for your reception. I tell you, had I needed $1 million that day, it would have come. Not because of the $6, but because of the certainty I carried within. Money is not the master, it is the obedient servant of imagination. When the mind is rich, the world must eventually comply. Therefore, never again look upon your present circumstances with fear or judgment. Look within. Build a palace in your imagination. Walk its halls. Touch its gold. Smell the sweet fragrance of its gardens. Know it is yours. For imagination holds a value the world cannot measure, and from it springs every treasure you will ever call your own. There was a time when I stood surrounded by nothing. No signs pointed to success. No voices cheered me forward. The world around me gave me no reason to believe that anything grand could happen. Yet within myself I assumed success so completely that it became more real to me than the silence, the emptiness, the absence of evidence. I did not wait for proof. I did not seek permission. I simply accepted that success was mine, unseen though it was, and trusted that the world would, in time, catch up to the certainty I carried. Assumption is the secret act of creation. It is the invisible brush with which you paint the masterpiece of your life. The man who waits to see before he believes will spend his days in the waiting room of life, always hoping, never receiving. But the man who assumes, who dares to claim the unseen, steps out of the line of beggars and walks boldly into the halls of kings. I understood that assumption was not mere wishing. It was not daydreaming. It was the deliberate acceptance of a reality that my senses could not yet confirm. It was living from the end, not toward it. It was thinking, feeling, and moving as one who already possessed what others still called a dream. It was wearing the crown long before anyone else saw it placed upon my head. Every day I woke up, not in the condition I saw with my eyes, but in the condition I saw within. I answered the world from the place of my assumed success. I made decisions, took steps, and spoke words, as if the thing desired was already accomplished. I did not act desperate. I did not plead with life. I stood firm in the inner knowing that what I had assumed must, by divine law, take form. There were moments, of course, when doubt tried to creep in, when the cold facts of my surroundings whispered, "You are a fool," when people laughed behind closed doors and circumstances seemed frozen. But even then, I held fast to my assumption. I turned away from the voices of fear and tuned myself to the reality I had claimed within. I spoke to myself with the authority of one who already possessed. I praised the unseen success, thanked it, celebrated it, and lived from it. The truth is that the world responds not to your begging, but to your certainty. It does not rearrange itself because you wish it would. It bends, folds, and reshapes itself around the assumptions you hold with unwavering faith. Assume a thing long enough, deeply enough, and the world cannot help but mirror it back to you. This is the silent power given to every man and woman. It does not require effort in the outer world. It does not demand toil or straining. It requires only that you believe you are already what you desire to be, and that you persist in that belief, even when the outer world refuses to agree. I did not make excuses. I did not explain my dreams to small minds. I quietly, joyfully, confidently assumed. I played the part in secret until life itself joined the game and lifted the curtain. What began as invisible became visible, and those who once doubted were forced to admit that something greater was at work. Understand this, and you will never fear again. Assumption is a creative force. It is not bound by the past. It is not limited by present circumstances. It answers only to the depth of your conviction. Assume you are successful. Assume you are wealthy. Assume you are loved, healed, favored. Assume it so completely that the world around you becomes powerless to deny it. When no evidence exists, assumption becomes the evidence. When nothing can be seen, assumption becomes the vision. Hold fast, live boldly, and know that what you assume in faith must one day reveal itself in form. The mind that persists is greater than the facts that surround it. Reality itself, though it may appear solid and immovable, is nothing more than clay in the hands of a determined soul. It is not the facts of today that determine the future, but the relentless insistence of one who refuses to bow to appearances. The present moment may scream of lack, of failure, of defeat, but it holds no real power against the mind that knows where it is going and refuses to yield. I understood early that circumstance is a liar. It reflects only what I once believed, not what I now claim. The facts that crowd around me are the echoes of old thoughts, old fears, old doubts. They are not prophecy. They are not destiny. They are the remnants of yesterday's imagination. And just as they were created, they can be destroyed, reformed, lifted into new shapes by the power of a mind that persists. Persistence is not stubbornness. It is not mindless repetition. It is the quiet, steady conviction that what I have imagined is more real than what my senses presently report. It is knowing beyond all visible signs that the world must eventually conform to the image I now hold within. The mountain must move. The sea must part. Circumstance must yield, not because I fight it, but because I outlast it with faith. Every great change, every miracle that has ever graced this world began with a mind that refused to be intimidated by facts. The fact said it was impossible. The fact said it had never been done. The fact said it could not be. But the persistent mind answered back, "It is already done." And by the quiet, unseen force of sustained belief, the facts themselves began to crumble and rebuild in a new form. There were many moments when the world around me laughed, when it pointed its finger and said, "Be realistic," when it told me to settle, to accept what is. But I knew that what is only the ghost of what once was imagined. And if I would persist in a new assumption, a new world must be born to match it. I did not argue with circumstances. I did not plead with life to change. I stood within myself, silent and unmoved, holding the feeling of the wish fulfilled. I returned to it morning and night, not with force, but with love. I revisited the scene of my victory so often that it became more familiar to me than the very facts that opposed it. I built the new world within until the old world had no choice but to dissolve before it. Understand this: reality is not permanent. It bends, it shifts, it breaks before the will of a mind that persists. It may not yield immediately, it may appear to harden and resist, but that resistance is an illusion. It is the last cry of a dying belief. Hold fast, do not waver, persist, and you will see even the hardest facts melt before the quiet heat of your sustained vision. There is no power in circumstance unless you give it your belief. There is no permanence in facts unless you grant them authority. Withdraw your faith from what you see and place it boldly in what you have claimed within. Live from the feeling of already having. think, speak, and act as if it is already so. And reality, faithful to the law it cannot break, will conform itself to your persistent assumption. The mind that persists does not wait to see, it knows. It does not bow to time, it masters it.
So you're telling me that the AI that's meant to make everyone's job easier to manage just adds more to manage on top of the thousands of apps the IT department already manages. Funny how that works. Any business can add AI. IBM helps you scale and manage AI to change how you do business. Let's create smarter business. IBM.
It does not beg the world to change, it commands it through unwavering vision. And in the end, reality, that once proud and stubborn world, must lay itself at the feet of the one who simply refused to give up. Long before the world called it true, I lived as though it already was. In the stillness of my mind, in the secret chambers of my heart, I carried myself as one who possessed the $900 million, 0 cents. I did not wait for the evidence to permit me. I did not consult my bank account to approve my imagination. I assumed the feeling of my desire fulfilled and made it my dwelling place. I moved, thought, and breathed from the end, as if the result I sought had already unfolded. This way of being is the key to all transformation. It is not about striving to get somewhere, nor about longing for a future day. It is about embodying the reality of your dream now, in this very moment, so that the outer world has no choice but to reorganize itself to match your inner certainty. The world is a mirror, and it reflects not what you wish, but what you are conscious of being. I did not allow my senses to dictate my belief. The senses are slow servants. They show only the results of former thoughts. If I had waited for physical proof to believe, I would have waited a lifetime. Instead, I turned inward. I clothed myself mentally in the feeling of success. I lived the conversations, the celebrations, the quiet confidence of one whose wealth was a settled fact. I would close my eyes and walk through halls lined with the fruits of my fortune. I would hear my name spoken with admiration. I would feel the weight of the responsibility and the ease of abundance. It was not a distant hope. It was a present possession. I felt it with such richness and such detail that the outer world seemed pale in comparison to the vividness within me. Every decision I made as the man who already had what he desired. I did not think, one day when I am rich I will. No, I thought, as one who already is. What would I choose? I answered every situation from the reality I had accepted in mind. I aligned my feelings, my actions, my assumptions to the end I had claimed. It did not matter what appeared before me. Lack may have shown its face, but I answered with abundance. Delay may have whispered in my ear, but I smiled with the knowledge that I already possessed. Doubt may have knocked at the door, but I lived so firmly in the end that it found no place to settle. Living in the end is not pretending, it is creating. It is not an act of deception, it is an act of faith. It is stepping across the threshold of what seems possible and daring to abide in the certainty of what your soul has already seen. It is taking possession before the world agrees, knowing that by doing so, the world must eventually follow. I did not chase the $900 million 0 cents. I did not run after opportunity in desperation. I rested inwardly in the assumption that it was already mine. And from that place of stillness, doors opened. Opportunities flowed. Ideas came. People appeared. Not by force, but by the natural law that what is held faithfully within must be expressed without. The mind that lives in the end is invincible. It is untouched by appearances, unshaken by time, and immune to the opinions of others. It knows that what it assumes itself to be, it will inevitably experience. By living, As if my success was already a fact, I summoned it forth into visible form. Long before the $900 million 0 cents found its way to my hands, it lived in my heart. It lived in my conversations, in my dreams, in the feeling that filled my every breath. And because I lived there faithfully, it had no choice but to find me. The world I see with my eyes is nothing but the echo of the beliefs I hold within. Life does not happen to me, it happens through me. Every event, every meeting, every circumstance is drawn into my experience by the silent magnet of my inner convictions. The outer world, with all its noise and movement, is but a mirror reflecting the invisible attitudes of my mind. When I grasped this truth, everything changed. I stopped wrestling with appearances. I ceased the endless struggle to rearrange the outer pieces of life, as if fixing the mirror would somehow change the face it reflected. Instead, I turned within. I understood that if I would alter my world, I must first alter the beliefs that govern my perception of it. I saw clearly that my success, my wealth, my $900 million 0 cents were not prizes to be chased in the outer world. They were the natural outpicturing of an inner assumption. Long before they became visible to the senses, they were alive in my belief. I had already accepted them as true. I walked, talked, and moved in the feeling of already being the man who possessed them. I knew that the world had no choice but to reflect back to me the image I held. Life is impartial. It does not respond to hopes or wishes. It responds to what I deeply believe to be true. If I believe in lack, life will arrange itself to confirm my belief. If I believe in abundance, abundance will flow to me in ways both expected and unexpected. The world does not argue, it simply mirrors. There were times when appearances mocked me. Times when the evidence seemed to laugh in my face. Yet I knew that what I experienced outwardly was only the delayed harvest of old beliefs, already fading, already dying. I refused to accept them as permanent. I held steadfast to the inner reality I had chosen, and eventually the outer world bent to match the inner conviction. I realized that the secret was not in striving harder, but in believing deeper. It was not about changing people or forcing circumstances. It was about becoming internally the man I desired to be, until the world, like a faithful servant, reshaped itself to honor my command. Every meeting, every opportunity, every so-called chance event that led to my fortune was born first in the unseen world of thought and feeling. I attracted them not because I chased them, but because I lived in a state of being where they naturally appeared. The world rearranged itself because I had rearranged myself. I understood that every outer experience is nothing more than an announcement of my inner state. If I wanted to know what I truly believed, I had only to look around me, not with judgment or fear, but with understanding, for what is seen can be changed the moment the unseen is changed. Reality is pliable. It molds itself around my dominant beliefs. I did not need the world's permission to change. I did not wait for circumstances to improve. I improved the vision within, and the circumstances obeyed. I abandoned the need to struggle against appearances and instead invested my energy into assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. That feeling became my reality long before the facts agreed with it. The world is a mirror, faithful and unrelenting. It will not lie to me, but it will also not resist me. The moment I change my conception of myself, the world must respond. The moment I assume a new belief with conviction, life bends itself to that image. The $900 million 0 cents was not a conquest of the world, but a conquest of my own inner convictions. It was not seized from outside, it was called forth from within. And the world, ever faithful, merely reflected the certainty that I had long carried in the secret places of my soul. Faith is not a passive wish or a fleeting hope. It is a deep, unwavering loyalty to a world that cannot yet be seen. It is an allegiance to the unseen realm of possibility, a commitment to the vision that resides in the heart long before it is visible in the world. Faith is not loyalty to the facts of the present. It is loyalty to the dreams and desires of the heart which exist in the unseen, waiting to manifest. It is the act of choosing to believe in what is not yet tangible, even when the world around you offers evidence to the contrary. In the beginning, when I dared to dream of $900 million, 0 cents, there was no outward sign that such a thing could ever be mine. The facts were against me. The world was full of limitations, doubts, and obstacles. Yet I chose to remain loyal to the vision I had formed within. I did not waver in my commitment to the unseen world of my desire. In the face of lack, I stood firm in my belief that the world of abundance was already mine, though it had not yet appeared. My faith was my loyalty. I refused to let my eyes dictate my reality. I looked beyond the surface into the realm of pure potential, and I trusted that what I had conceived within would surely find its way into the outer world. Faith, in this sense, is not a passive acceptance of what is. It is an active declaration of what will be. I did not wait for life to show me what was possible. I created it in my mind and held it in my heart. I became loyal to that unseen vision, nurturing it with my thoughts, feelings, and actions. Every day I aligned myself with the reality I wished to see. I believed in it so fully that the world around me had no choice but to conform. I did not give my loyalty to the appearance of things. I gave it to the inner world I was shaping. In the early stages of my journey, it was tempting to be swayed by what I saw. The external world, with its doubts, disappointments, and lack, sought to draw me away from my vision. But I knew that to yield to the outer world would be to betray the inner one. My faith was a constant. I did not allow the fleeting circumstances of the moment to steal my commitment to what I had already seen in my heart. I did not make the mistake of measuring my worth by what the world reflected back to me in the present. Instead, I measured my worth by the faith I held in the unseen world. I remained loyal to my inner vision, trusting that the universe would bring forth the conditions necessary for its fulfillment. The journey was not without its challenges, but my loyalty to the unseen never wavered. Every challenge, every obstacle was simply an opportunity to prove my faith, to show the world that I was unwavering in my belief. I did not let the world define me. I defined my world through the power of my loyalty to my desires. The key to manifesting anything in this world lies in this loyalty. To be loyal to the unseen is to be unwavering in the face of appearances. It is to trust that what you have seen in your mind is more real than what you see with your eyes. It is the refusal to be swayed by temporary setbacks or fleeting moments of doubt. It is the deep inner knowing that the world must bend to the will of a mind that is faithful to its own vision. Through loyalty to the unseen world, I called forth $900 million, 0 cents. I did not wait for the world to change. I changed my perception of it. I remained faithful to the unseen, and in time the outer world mirrored that faith, bringing forth all that I had long held within. Faith is not just belief. It is the force that transforms what is invisible into what is visible. It is the loyalty that turns dreams into reality. And with unwavering faith, everything I desired was made manifest. In conclusion, the journey to manifesting my desires was not one of effort, but of faith, vision, and loyalty to the unseen world. It was not the $6, 0 cents I had, but the immense power of my imagination, assumption, persistence, and unwavering belief that brought the $900 million, 0 cents into my experience. The external world is but a reflection of the internal world. When I align my thoughts, feelings, and actions to my desires, The universe had no choice but to respond in kind. What you hold in your mind, what you feel in your heart, and what you believe in your soul are the forces that shape your reality. Do not wait for the world to change first. Change the way you see the world, change your inner beliefs, and the world will reshape itself around you. Remain loyal to your vision, even when the present circumstances seem to tell a different story. When you live in the end, assume the feeling of your desire fulfilled and persist through every challenge. The world must mirror your inner conviction. I encourage you to hold steadfast to your dreams, to never waver in your loyalty to the unseen world of your desire. As you do, you will see your own world shift, bend, and align to the life you have already imagined. The power is within you, and your desires are already yours. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery and manifestation. May you always remain faithful to the vision you hold, knowing that everything you seek is already within your grasp.